Hello students, this is Shashikala. Welcome to my economics class. With the hard times prevailing, situation should not become hurdle to your academics. That is why we are approaching you in a different way through this platform. Before starting with the session, here are few instructions to you. Keep a notebook and pen handy to make points. And for greater concentration, put on your headphones. In the earlier classes, we discussed economics can be studied in two broad branches. One is microeconomics, the other is macroeconomics. Microeconomics studies individual concepts. Example, an individual consumer behavior, an individual producer behavior, an individual market structure, etc. Whereas macroeconomics studies the concepts in aggregates. It studies the economy as whole. For example, studying about total consumption of the country, studying total production levels in the country, total market structure, national income of the country, etc. In microeconomics, we have 6 chapters, and macroeconomics we are having 6 chapters. So total 12 chapters in 2nd PU. We have already started with chapter 1. Now let us have a glance at the previous concepts before getting started with chapter 2. Let's have a quick glance. We discussed about economy. Economy is nothing but under conditions how the goods and services are consumed, produced, distributed and exchanged in a particular region. In simple words, it is a framework within which all these economic activities takes place. There are 4 important economic activities. The very first economic activity, consumption. It is a process of utilization of goods and services. Second one, production. It is making of the goods and services or manufacturing the goods and services. Distribution is nothing but the distribution of national income among the factors of production in the form of rent, wages, interest and profit. And the last one, exchange. Trade of goods and services through the medium of money. We also discussed the concept central problems of an economy or basic problems of an economy. There are 3 basic problems. Number 1, what to produce and in what quantity to be produced. With the available resources, whether we should produce the consumer goods or the producer goods, or we should produce the wartime goods or the peacetime goods. It is about the problem of allocation of the resources. The second important problem, how to produce. It is a problem of technology, making choice of technology. There are 2 different technologies. One is labor intensive technology, the other is capital intensive technology. And the last problem we discussed about for whom to produce. It is the problem of distribution of national income. And coming to the organization of economic activities or the types of economies in the world, there are three different types of economies. Number one, centrally planned economy, or we call it as socialist economy. In such type of economy, all these activities are controlled by the government. Their main motive is social welfare. And the second one, market economy or capitalist economy. In such kind of economy, all the activities are purely controlled by the business class. All the activities are controlled by the market forces. We call it as demand and supply. Here price mechanism play an important role, and all the decisions what to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce is also decided by the forces. Whereas in centrally planned economy, these decisions are taken by the government. And the third one, mixed economy. In such economies, both the public sector and private sector prevail. They give importance for social welfare as well as for profit making. The root of economics lies in human wants. As human beings are having many wants, those wants can be satisfied with the utilization of the goods and services. The process of using these goods and services are called consumption. The process of manufacturing these goods and services are called production. And the process of distribution, that is the rewards for the factors of production, comes under the distribution, and trade of goods and services through the medium of money called the exchange. See these pictures in the slide. There are different consumers purchasing different goods. Few are purchasing food products. Few consumers are purchasing smartphone. And the other consumer is purchasing a house. So we can observe and infer that all the consumers are not purchasing the same type of goods, same brand and in same quantity. They are purchasing and they are thinking and behaving in a different way. So each and every consumer's behavior is different because their income levels are different, their taste and preferences are different. Coming to chapter 2, the theory of consumer behavior. In this chapter, we will study the behavior of an individual consumer. The consumer has to decide how to spend his income on different goods. Economists call this the problem of choice. Most naturally, any consumer will want to get a combination of goods that gives him maximum satisfaction. Here are the contents of the chapter. Here we discuss about utility. Under utility, there are two different approaches. Cardinal utility approach. The other one is ordinal utility approach. Two important theories. Under cardinal utility, we study diminishing marginal utility. And in cardinal utility analysis, we discuss indifference curve. And the next concept, consumer's budget. Here we study set, budget line, slope of the budget line. Next is the very important concept, demand, market demand and elasticity of demand. In chapter 2, we are discussing about the consumer behavior. But you may be having a question and thinking, what is there to study about consumption and why we need to study about consumer? Did you know that the entire national economy actually depends on consumer? When there are more number of consumers in the country, naturally the other economic activities will also increase. That is, the increase in the production level. Next, it leads to the increase in the employment opportunities, increase in savings, increase in the capital formation, increase in banking habits, increase in exports, increase in investments, increase in GDP, and finally the value of rupee also increases. After understanding this chapter, as a consumer, as a producer, a banker, a government, administrator, your decisions become more wise. This is a very important and interesting concept which is very much to our day-to-day life. It's a very logical and practical concept which hold great importance during any kind of situation. I already told you all the consumers are not alike. Their decisions are different. These decisions are based on various factors. The important basic factors that influences the consumer's decisions are: first one, the likes of the consumer. Each and every consumer is different in their likes and preferences. Second one, the income of the consumer. The income levels of the consumer are also different. And the price of the goods. Now let us have a glance at the basic terms that we use in this chapter. Consumption. The utilization of goods and services is called consumption, and the person who uses the goods and services is called a consumer. We are discussing about the rational consumer who is having the limited income. The consumer decides how to spend his income on different goods and services. A consumer wants to get a combination of goods that gives him maximum satisfaction. The ultimate aim of the consumer is to get maximum satisfaction with his limited income. And the combination here means, for example, if you are purchasing two goods, say example potato and brinjal, you are purchasing 2 kilos of brinjal and 1 kilo of potato. That we call it as combination of goods. And the best combination always depends on the likes and preferences of the consumer, his income level and the prices of the goods. Coming to the meaning of consumer behavior. How the consumer behaves while purchasing the goods and services. How the consumer think and act while purchasing the goods and services based on his income levels. So it is, in simple words, it is the study of how the individual consumers spend their income to attain maximum satisfaction or utility. The theory of consumer behavior holds good only when the following assumptions are fulfilled. A consumer in general consumes many goods, but for simplicity, for our easy understanding, we take only two goods. We call it as good 1 and good 2. Let us take for example banana as good 1 and mango as good 2. Good 1 is always denoted with a variable x1 and good 2 is denoted with variable x2. And the combination of bundle. Example, if a consumer is purchasing 5 units of banana and 10 units of mango, we write it in the combination. And next, we are talking about the rational consumer, a person who is having limited income. So always the consumer has limited income, which will be denoted by capital M. Also, the prices of these two goods will be given, which is expressed as P1 the price of good 1 and P2 the price of good 2. And always the consumer's satisfaction depends likes and preferences of the consumer. Coming to the concept of utility. Utility is nothing but satisfaction. In simple words, utility means the want satisfying power of a commodity or service. In other words, utility is a state of being useful, profitable or beneficial. It is the ability to satisfy a particular want or a need. Let us take an example. Imagine you are hungry and eating an apple. That apple satisfies your hunger because it is having a want satisfying power, which is called as utility. You are watching a movie. The entertainment is a service which gives you some satisfaction because it is having some utility. You are riding a bike. This is a good which gives you satisfaction. That means the bike is giving some utility, satisfying your want. Having a cup of coffee. That cup of coffee is giving you some satisfaction. That is utility. Coming to the features of utility. Utility is subjective. Utility differs from place to place and time to time. Utility is invisible. It has no physical existence. We consume goods and services for the satisfaction of our wants. It means goods and services have the capacity or power to satisfy our wants or serve a human purpose. It is a common feature of all the goods and services. Anything that satisfies human wants possesses utility. That is why we use food, cloth, pen, paper, watch, and so on. Hence, utility means the want satisfying power of a commodity. Let me explain in detail. Utility is subjective, which means it differs from individual to individual. For example, if someone who likes ice cream gets more satisfaction, it derives more utility from ice cream rather than the person who doesn't like it. The second feature, utility changes from place to place and from time to time. Let us take two places. One is a very cold region and a very hot region, Shimla and Chennai. Air coolers gives more utility in a very hot place like Chennai rather than in Shimla. In the same way, if we take two different time periods, summer and winter. In summer, cotton clothes gives more than in winter. And the last one, utility is invisible. It doesn't have any physical existence, it is only a psychological feeling. The consumer behavior can be studied in two different approaches. One is cardinal utility analysis, the other is ordinal utility analysis. According to cardinal utility approach, utility or satisfaction from a good can be measured with the help of imaginary numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. Let us take few examples. A cup of tea gives me 50 units of satisfaction. An apple gives me 40 units of satisfaction. The t-shirt gives me 10 units of utility. Riding a bike or driving a car gives me 100 units of utility. This approach was given by Professor Alfred Marshall. But some economists felt it is unrealistic as satisfaction cannot be measured with the help of imaginary numbers. They criticized this and they gave a new approach called ordinal utility approach. According to these economists, utility cannot be measured with the numbers, but it can be compared and ranked. For example, if there are two goods, say mango and banana, consumer prefers mango than banana. So, he gives first rank for mango and second rank for banana. And the chief exponents of this approach are J.R. Hicks, R.G.D. Allen and others. The law of diminishing marginality utility is based on cardinal approach and indifference curve is based on ordinal utility approach. Coming to the measures of utility. People buy the goods because they get satisfaction from them. Economists measure utility in imaginary units. We call it as utils. Here we study three measures of utility. First one, initial utility. Second one, total utility. And third one, marginal utility. Coming to the initial utility. The utility derived by consuming the first unit of a commodity is called initial utility. Let us take an example. You are getting very thirsty. You need water to quench your thirst. The first tumbler of water that you drink satisfies your want. The satisfaction that you derive by consuming the first tumbler of water, we call it as initial utility. Or the satisfaction derived from the first pie, we call it as initial utility. The second one, total utility, is the total satisfaction derived from consuming the given amount of some commodity. Let's take an example. A person drinks 5 tumblers of water. The satisfaction that he derives from all these 5 tumblers of water is called as total utility. It can be represented as total utility is equal to utility 1 plus utility 2 plus utility 3 plus utility 4 plus utility 5. And if we mention total utility of n, it refers to the total satisfaction derived from consuming n units of commodity X. It can also be written as the sum of marginal utility or summation of marginal utility. And the last one, marginal utility. Marginal means extra or additional satisfaction. It can be described as the extra or additional satisfaction that a consumer gets from consuming additional unit of a good. It can be expressed as marginal utility of n is equal to total utility of n minus total utility of n minus 1. Let's take an example. Suppose a person gets 10 utils by consuming 1 unit of a commodity and 15 utils by consuming an additional unit of that commodity. The marginal utility of the second commodity is 5 utils. Let's take one more example. Suppose 4 bananas gives us 28 units of total utility and 5 bananas gives us 30 units of total utility. Clearly, the consumption of the 5th banana has caused total utility to increase by 2 units. Therefore, marginal utility of the 5th banana is 2 units. So this is for today and the concepts to be discussed in the next class. Cardinal utility analysis and the law of diminishing marginal utility. Thank you for listening patiently. Looking forward for the next class. Here are few questions which is to be solved as your assignment. Make a note of it. Question 1. What is consumption? Question 2. Who is a consumer? Question 3. What do you mean by consumer behavior? And question 4. Mention the features of utility. Thank you.